morning, Sir Ernie and classmates. Today, we are about to report or to discuss the political realism itself. What is political realism itself? Realism, also known as political realism, is a view of international politics that stresses its competitive towards deglobalization and its conflictual side.
It is a theory of political philosophy that attempts to explain, model, and prescribe political relations.
What is realism in globalization? Realism in globalization is focuses in the nation of our state, especially the capabilities of military and economy and the desires of the state to advance the national interest and to gain more benefits. To realism, globalization reflects the hegemonic influence of the major powers in the international politics. According to the theory of realism, state power is not subject to the influence of people, multinational corporations, terrorists, or international organizations. The state itself is the supreme power. Balance, peace, and progress are maintained and achieved through thankful negotiation and balance of power.
The view of political realism. Viewpoint which accords to things which are known or perceived, an existence or nature which is independent of whether anyone is thinking about or perceiving them. There are 6 principles of political realism. Number 1. Political realism believes that politics, like society in general, is governed by objective laws that have their roots in human nature. Second, main signpost that helps political realism to find its way through the landscape of international politics is the concept of interest defined in terms of power. Number 3. Realism assumes that its key concept of interest defined as power is an objective category which is universally valid, but it does not endow that concept with a meaning that is fixed once and for all. 4. Realism is aware of the moral significance of political action. Number 5. Political realism refuses to identify the moral aspirations of a particular nation with the moral laws that govern by the universe. And the number 6, or the last, is the difference then between political realism and other school of thought. It's real and it's profound.
Now at this point, we will be discussing on how does realism view life. Realism focused on the truthful treatment in everyday life. So the truthful treatment means to state the reality of the common happenings in our daily lives, or to tell the truth about reality. For example, when we talk about the reality of society, interdependent as the word that is used to convey the reality that the human beings in society are dependent on each other, yet it was true. Realism seeks a one-to-one relationship between representation and the subject. This form is also known as mimesis. The word mimesis comes from the Greek word which means imitation. It is the basic theoretical principle in the creation of art. which is basically done in the sense of representation rather than of copying. Realists are concerned with the effect of the work towards their readers and the reader's life. It is also known as a pragmatic view. Pragmatic view is kind of philosophical tradition that is used to consider words and thought as tools and instruments for prediction, problem solving, and action. It usually rejects the idea that the function of thought is to describe, to represent, or to mirror the reality.
Can realism help us to understand the globalization of world politics? Realism has been most influential in explaining world politics and developed a variety of theoretical approaches over the time. The values of realism in international relations are focused on security, precisely power politics, conflict and war. Jackson and Sorensen, 2003. Yes, realism has played a great role in terms of world politics because realism is an approach to the study and practice of international politics.
The concept of realism. The concept of realism includes a set of related theories of international relations that emphasizes the role of the state, national interest, and power in world politics. Realism, including neorealism, focuses on abiding patterns of interaction in international system lacking a centralized political authority.
How does realism affect people? The realist depicted everyday subject and situation in contemporary setting and attempted to depict individuals of all social classes in a similar manner. Classical idealism, romantic emotionalism, and drama were avoided equally, and often sordid or untidy elements of subject were showcased somewhat, as opposed to being beautified or omitted. Social realism emphasized the depiction of the working class and treated working class people with the same seriousness as the other classes in art. Realism also aimed to avoid artificiality in the treatment of human relations and emotions. Treatment of subject in a heroic, sentimental manner were rejected.
Why is political realism is important today? Political realism is important today. It's because it emphasizes the role of the nation-state and make a broad assumption that all nation-states are motivated by national interest, or at best, national interest disguised as a moral concern. In other words, realist set of related theories of international relations that emphasize the role of the state, national interest, and power in world politics.
And that's all for our report about the theory of political realism. Thank you so much for listening and may God bless us all.